Hi there. Thanks for coming along to our breakfast event to showcase some of our micro-learning speakers around project and program management. We're not quite ready yet. We're still sorting things out, getting the technology up and running so we can all be ready for you. So in the meantime, have a look at a few of these snippets and it'll give you a bit of a taster as to some of the other micro-learning modules that we've got, some of the speakers we've got coming up in store over the next 12 months. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Cheers.
Projects in the OGC world, in MSP and Prince world, exist to deliver outputs. And what do we mean by it? PMI calls them deliverables. It's a thing. Usually it means you can have your photograph taken next to it. You know, you can, if you can tap it, it's an output.
Risks and issues on programs.
So when you've got a whole load of things on your risk register, have a look through them and go, what are the causes that we have? What are the big answers to lots of these things? But it's useful to say, am I looking at an effect or a cause when you're looking at the risk register?
Oh, hi. Thanks for coming back. We're still getting the cameras ready. We're still getting everyone positioned so we can do the broadcast really well for you. So look, have a look at a few more of these micro-learning snippets so you get a bit of a taster of what's in store. Again, talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging by. Cheers.
What are the benefits of vaccinating children against flu? Well, presumably it means the kids don't get flu. They can go to school, their exam scores improve, their education improves. They don't give flu to other kids at school. That's good. That's a benefit. It's a measurable improvement. We can measure the amount of days that kids have off school because they do measure it. We can do this stuff.
A team member may say something like, this new project is negatively affecting our team, and that's not being taken into consideration at all. So an active listener could respond by reflecting back. What I'm hearing you say is this new project will have negative consequences for your team. So I'm not parroting back, I'm reflecting back what I'm hearing in my own words.
Oh, hi. Thanks very much again for joining us. Now, we're just showing you a few of these snippets, so you've got a bit of a taster of what the micro-learning is all about. We've got a couple of presenters coming up shortly to speak to you. It's all sort of around the micro-learning for project and program managers. So we're still getting the lights all sorted and getting the microphones on and things like that. So just bear with us for a few more moments and you should be good to go, okay? So we'll definitely be seeing you soon. Cheers.
Project, Program and Portfolio Management Maturity Model, P3M3 Maturity Levels.
So at level 1 maturity, which we call awareness, so there's kind of a process awareness, they are kind of the fun places to work, right? Because every project's exciting for them because they've got no idea what's going to happen.
Establishing an enterprise project management office.
One of the key things is spending a lot of time on problem definition, understanding, and obviously the same for projects, right? What are we actually trying to resolve here? Are we all clear? Are we all agreed? It takes a lot of time to do that.
I don't know. Is this the right cable? I can't work it out. Look, we're going to be just taking a little bit longer to get this ready. We've got a few cables here that we're not quite sure where they're meant to go. But once we've got those in, we'll be up and running. So look, keep enjoying yourself watching these micro learning snippets. They'll no doubt give you a bit of knowledge around project and program management. So yeah, talk to you soon. Cheers.
Ponder this. We typically divide projects into work packages. We divide programs into projects. There's inevitably an overlap. Should I run a big, complicated project with big, complicated work packages? Or should I run a simple program with specific projects in it? One person's big, complicated work package is another person's simple project. And organizations will make different choices.
Multiple diverse infections.
When they scan your temperature, if it was above 37, something you were a potentially Ebola carrier. Now, the problem is in a country like Sierra Leone, your humidity is hot. We're right in the midst of malaria season. And then you've got huge HIV cases going on as well.
Kia ora whānau to those in New Zealand, Australia and beyond. Welcome to the CC Learning Networking event. We bring worldwide project professionals to you to share ideas, learnings and experiences in project management. I'm broadcasting from Brisbane, Australia. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we meet today, the Yagara people and the Turrbal people. I'm Nanjin. I pay my respects to the Yagara and Turrbal elders past, present and emerging, who pass their culture and knowledge through oral storytelling, song, and dance. There's no dancing or singing planned today, unfortunately for you. We will, however, use oral storytelling to share the wisdom and knowledge gained from experiences in project management. In that way, we hope to blend our cultures and histories together. Today, we're going to be discussing the PRINCE2 V7 processes and how these ensure successful project management outcomes. So I warmly welcome Henny Portman, located in the Netherlands, which has just had an election and some very interesting results. And Henny was a voting official, I believe. Kia ora, Henny, how are you?
I'm doing well, yeah. Besides the election itself, the results, but okay, for the rest I'm doing well, yeah.
When you're so close to it, I guess, you can't help but have it straight in your face, right? So
Yeah, exactly. So I did my best, but I couldn't change it.
No, that's right, exactly.
I'm
What a
not
shame.
allowed to.
Oh, you just wanted some rain or something. And we're also joined by Andy. Kia ora, Andy. How goes it, Wirral? Was it a crisp morning for your run this morning?
Yes, no, I haven't been for a run this morning. That was yesterday. I run sort of every other day when I can. So I've not been outside yet. So I'll let you know later what the weather's like. But it appears grey from outside the window.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. Okay, so today we're going to discuss the process chapters of the new Prince book, which Henny and Andy worked on. Now, this is a pre-recording for those joining us live, or rather for those not joining us live. But please continue to ask questions via YouTube and LinkedIn chat. We'll put together some answers and distribute those to those who got registered into the system. Remember to subscribe to our LinkedIn and YouTube channels for future notifications. And continue those conversations and post messages online at your workplace. It would help us if you share this event to promote it for the future. So, Henny, tell me, how were you approached about the authorship? Was it in a dark alley, or was it a bit more in the open?
Yeah, that was rather strange, I would say. If I remember well, that was, I think, already 2 years ago, or maybe even more, when I got a phone call. Henny, we need to talk to you. About what? Yeah, we cannot tell you. But next week we want to talk about with you. No, it's secret. We cannot tell you. And then the week after, okay, we had a short conversation, and then Andy explained what he was aiming for, and he was inviting me. Will you support us to help us with the process chapters?
Okay. So
Yeah.
they've already, everyone had ascertained that you were the process guy, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. So immediately it started there. Yeah.
Oh, very nice, very nice. And what was the brief you were given for the process chapters? Was it throw everything out and start again, or was it stick with what you got?
Now, of course, okay, there was a sort of project brief in line with PRINCE2, explaining, okay, and this is what the chapters must be all about. So that means that you could already see, but that's of course based on all the feedback they received from users of PRINCE2. There were not that many changes in the process part. So looking in the project brief, you saw there already the activities mentioned. And that was my starting point. And I also used that one as for myself as a starting point. I like to work with pictures. So the first thing I created was already a first overview of graphs of all the processes and how they were linked together with the new activities, if there were just a few mentioned in a few processes. Okay, so this is the total picture. So that was my starting point. And I know in the process writing the book, I think that was after 1.5 years that we start talking about graphs, but for me it was my starting point.
Very nice.
And that's how I always work. So I start always with a picture. I do a lot of book reviews, and when I like the book, I create a picture, a one pager showing the most important things of the book.
Very cool. And Andy, are you the one that scouted out Henny?
Well, actually, it was when John Edmonds and I were sort of putting a list of potential authors together. We both came up with the same name. For the process chapters, so it was a really easy, an easy-ish decision to make. And a lot of that is that, as Henny just explained, that Henny likes to sort of produce sort of pictures or diagrams, visualizations of things. And after the 2009 version of PRINCE2 and then the 2017 version, Henny was sharing his understanding of the method in that way, and it demonstrated an ability to see all of the connections and the links from the method and that sort of integrating approach that the processes provide. And so, so that's sort of how John and I sort of, when we were talking about it, this is the sort of person we want, and we both came up with the same name. So it was a good one. And the other aspect as well, Henny was involved in prior iterations as a reviewer, and I recall my sort of my analogy here is that Henny's like a bird of prey, sort of hovering above, and you can see that incredible level of detail right down below, where there might be something that's not quite right or something that needs correcting because that bit connects to that part or so. So that ability to see the whole picture, but draw down into a specific bit of detail is a real skill. And we got lots of value out of Henny doing exactly the same when we started off this process.
So Henny, what your interest in creating diagrams and graphs and graphically representing things, how did you find that helped you with the PRINCE2, looking at the PRINCE2 method? Because, I mean, you know it pretty well. You've been involved in those previous iterations. This time around, did you sort of try and move things around a bit? There's a few changes, haven't there? So how did that diagram help you there?
Now, for me, it's always the starting point to get a understanding what are we talking about, and looking at those diagrams. Okay, that shows, okay, this is the key we are talking about. So if you understand those, then the rest will follow. And I think when we look at the process chapters, you could maybe make the comparison with what's his name, Mies van der Rohe. That's an architect, a German architect, and one of his famous quotes is "Less is more." And when you look at the process chapters, and I think and you compare that with the PRINCE2 2009 version or 17 version, then you see it's much smaller. So there was a lot of so when you see the picture, then that's already the starting point for the project manager. And in the previous versions, okay, there was a lot of details there where you can ask yourself, is that really helpful for a project manager if he has the complete picture? So for me, that was for sure, we have to start with those pictures. And then you can, of course, go further. When you look at the older versions, there we created also graphs looking at every individual product. Okay, what is the input, what is the output, etc. And I think then you get too much detailed again. Then you are so prescriptive. This is what you have to do. So stay with the high-level picture, as Andy say. So looking at the sort of bird's eye view. That's funny, by the way. I looked at more than 100 different agile frameworks, and I called that my bird's eye view of the agile forest.
Very nice.
And so for me, that was the starting point, and let's see if we can remove lots of details by having it as a starting point. And that's why sorry.
Do you have a favorite process? Is there a process when you look like, oh, I love that one, I'm never going to get rid of that one?
Yeah, for me, it's I would say managing product delivery. I always when I gave training classes, that black box there it happens, and that gives also the strength to Prince. Because before we were even talking about Agile, one of the books I wrote was about Agile project management. And in the appendix, we created a whole paragraph about how can you use PRINCE2 in an Agile world. And it was diving into the details of managing product delivery, because you could make it. You could do it in different ways. And I think that's the power of PRINCE2. We are not talking about waterfall or stage delivery or agile or hybrid. No, you can do everything there. And that's, I think, the power of PRINCE2. And when you say, I made just the link to those 100 different agile frameworks. So every time a new one pops up. And why is that? Of course, there is a commercial drive behind that, but also it's not always bringing the success. If I look at the standards group with their chaos reports, Agile is not the silver bullet.
Yeah, and I like that I like that process as well, because as you say, it's where the tire hits the road, right? Everything else before it is just to help that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice. And how about you, Andy? Did you have a particular process that you can't take managing product delivery now, so you got to choose something else?
I've never been asked that question before, but so it's a bit like do you have a favourite child? I would say the closing a project process, because that's where you get to celebrate the achievements and so on. But actually within that, I do like the guidance that's always been in PRINCE2, but it's added to again in this iteration around premature close, because we do see lots of projects that have a premature close, and that's a good decision for many projects. That's a value-adding decision to close it early, and to have that decision as soon as you can is also value-adding. But PRINCE2 talks about what do you do to make sure you get the best value of the remaining work, or the work to close the project in a controlled way, and that's the emphasis there, to make sure it is controlled rather than abandoned, which sadly I do see as a reviewer from time to time.
Yeah, fully agree. Yeah.
Well, one might say that it's not used enough.
Yes, I agree with that.
like little Duracell bunny projects running around, just never wanting to end. They're just powered up.
Or we get some. I've come across projects that never formally closed. They just, all the resources and energy just sort of were taken off, and they were never ceremonially closed. So they're sort of still in existence. Sort of a Schrodinger's project. It's sort of still there, but not there. So it's still got a budget line.
I wrote an article with Maria and Silva about project creatures that can slow down your portfolio delivery. And there I talk about cockroach projects. And you kill it, and it still absorbs. Or fake nose projects. So we have a project running for 3 years, doesn't bring anything. So we stop the project. We just give it a new name, so a fake nose. And then we will continue with the project. Or a ghost project. Or so we had lots of those project creatures just to visualize, again, visualization. Okay, what kind of projects can be part of your portfolio? And what can you do about it? You have to kill them. Or a pufferfish project. So it looks very small, but if you go deeper, okay, then it gets bigger and bigger. Or an octopus project with not one steering committee or project board, no, several, and they are not aware of each other. And the one is saying you have to move left, and the other is saying you have to move right. So we created a lot of those project creatures. That's really fun. Yeah. But they are, in reality, they are there. It started with the pet project in a portfolio, just for the ego of senior management, but it doesn't contribute to the strategic objectives. So you have many of those creatures. So I agree with you. You stop it, and it still absorbs resources.
Very true. And then tell me about the significant changes. I mean, I know that we've said that there haven't been a lot of changes, and you sort of expect that with a methodology built on best practice. I'd be a bit worried if it was changing significantly every time we did an iteration. But there have been a few changes, haven't there? Can you run us through some of those changes?
Are you now talking about PRINCE2 in general, or?
The changes.
I think maybe one of the most important changes is the focus on people management. I think for me that's really key. I would say finally. So that was always a missing part, and I think that's really I would say the biggest change in PRINCE2. So now having people part of all the integrated elements. We had 4, and now we have 5 integrated elements with people just in the heart. And around that, okay, we will have, of course, the processes, the principles, the practices, and of course the context. Where's the project running? But people, that's really key, because that makes success.
Did that influence how you worked on the process chapters then? Did you find that you were using that people chapter?
If you look at the processes, okay, it's about also when you take people as a starting point, then you start to understand it's not always about following or filling in a template. Take, for example, a progress report. I have seen progress reports of 10 or 20 pages. Of course, that doesn't make sense. But I think it's much more important that you have conversations. So looking at the beginning of a project. So let's say starting up a project or initiating a project, have the conversation with your project executive. Okay, when do you want me to inform you? Talking about tolerances, but it's about conversation. When can I give you a call? It's not every 2 weeks I will send you a progress report. No, what is important for you? When do I need to get in contact with you? Or take, for example, a project board. You can create fantastic reports to go to a project board, but I'm always teaching my people in the pools of project managers I had in the past. Okay, it's not about that progress report. Now you have to inform them up front. You have to have the debate already up front, and then the steering committee or the project board meeting, that's just there to get the formal approval. Okay, it's for the record. but all the conversations were already there. And now finally, it's also part of PRINCE2 that you have to take that into account.
Yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive part, and I know for people who are going to be doing the exams, it's a large portion, 8 to 14% of actually the exam syllabus. So it's definitely going to get a lot of emphasis on the training courses. So I'm hoping that people pick up this concept, these concepts like of co-creation, of project ecosystems. And so I'm wondering whether any experiences that either of you had in the way the processes were implemented influenced when you looked at the modifications. So whether it was confirmation that they're looking pretty good, or some things that you've seen that we need to tweak that a little bit.
Shall I jump in here, Henny? So one of the things that that Henny achieved, and how the process chapters are slimmed down, is that we noticed there's duplication in the previous iterations between the process chapters and the guidance in the themes as they were and the practices as they are now. So we had this sort of overall theme or approach, which is around the processes are about who and what. And if we're describing how, then that's a practice or a technique. So we should refer back to the relevant practice and the techniques within them. So that helped a lot. And I think that reduction in repetition makes the method more integrated, because I think trainers and examiners and candidates have picked up in the past where the practice says you do it like this and the processes might say something slightly different. So that strengthens the method by avoiding that repetition. So that was one aspect, but because of that focus then on the who and the what, Henny, you were picking up that actually we need this to go into the into the progress practice, or we need this to go into the plans practice. So it's more the influence on the practices, I think, that came from Henny's work early, and that first diagram, that first picture, we were picking up some inconsistencies in some of the triggers and some of the language used in the processes previously. So that was a great piece of work too.
Yeah, that's the picture. I have many of them. I call them my quick reference cards. Yeah.
Very good. And so, Henny, your experience of going into organisations and helping them with their P3 entry assessments or project management assessments, did any of those influence your angle or your attack with regards to the processes and the
Now it's more confirmation, but on the other hand, I was in an organization in Finland, and there they were using PRINCE2 with many project managers. It was a large construction firm, and I saw them creating additional management approaches. For example, one about sustainability, etc. And now you see in this version in PRINCE2 that looking at management approaches. So we have one about digitalization, but also about the environment and those sorts of things, and looking at the sustainability goals, etc. So it makes it now easier that we say we are not prescriptive. So we added a few of those management approaches, and on the other hand, as an organization, if you have a specific topic and you say, this is important for me, and we follow the process, now we don't see, in the process, let's say, for example, looking at initiating a project where in the previous version, we had different activities. So now you have to set up a risk management approach or a quality management approach. So it's now just about very simple. Set up your management approaches. So that makes it also possible for organizations to tailor it. In our organization, this is really key. We would like to emphasize, that project managers take that into account. So then it becomes just an additional management approach, and we can exactly follow the PRINCE2 process. So that absolutely helps.
Yeah, less prescriptive, I guess. Hey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Now, let me just do a bit of an ad break. Jenny, our course admin, has asked me if I'll mention that we have a few prices on the PRINCE2 version 7 courses coming up and some better business case courses coming up. We've got our 2024 schedule up on our website now. So if your staff are interested in booking on PRINCE2 or Agile benefits or change management, please let us know. You can attend any of our courses in the classroom or virtually, because we broadcast all of our classroom deliveries for people in New Zealand and in Australia. So if you're in New Zealand, phone 0800 88 8897 or visit our website, cclearning.cc. I was wondering, Henny, can you tell us about, and you've mentioned Agile, can you tell us about how Agile might have changed or influenced the way you looked at the processes, or any other sort of guidances like PMI that might have had an effect on?
Now, I think that's the beauty of the process I was already mentioning, looking at managing product delivery. So there you are really creating your tangible products or your services, etc. So that was seen as a sort of black box, but there it happens. Okay, so if you use an agile way of working, if you say, okay, looking at we are going to deliver this piece of what we are developing in a more agile way. Let's say every 2 weeks we will add some functionality. Interesting people. So, okay, so I can leave it to that team. We would like to have a lot of feedback because it's not clear at the beginning what we would like to deliver. And so we have an outline, a rough idea. So that asks for a lot of interaction. And we can create a fantastic requirements document, but at the end, they still say, okay, this is not what I expected. So I need a lot of interaction, people again. So if you do that, if you agree, so in my project, okay, I am going to deliver those parts of the project in a really frequent way. So I have lots of iterations delivering new functionality, etc. So that means that I have to do less on the project board level. So there you see, okay, there is interaction. So if you agree, I'm doing that, it will have its consequence. It also means when you go a little bit earlier in the process, looking at initiating the project, looking at what am I going to deliver, looking at, for example, my product breakdown structure. Okay, I have here my product, maybe on a rather high level described, and I leave the details, okay, up to the delivery teams. So you can find connections everywhere. Looking at closing a project, okay, the handover of everything, yeah, that's not happening now because you already did it during the delivery. That also means, looking at my benefits realization, the moment you start to give something to your customer, okay, then you start already to achieve some benefits. And so in a more traditional way, you say, okay, I deliver the output. Okay, the output will be embedded in the organization. Then we start to measure and we will see benefits getting in, hopefully achieving our strategic objectives. Now it becomes a continuous process. And the beauty of PRINCE2 is, okay, it's still possible.
And what challenges have you guys seen in trying to implement that? Because, we keep talking about how this is such a beautiful process, and so therefore it should work. And yet we constantly hear about projects that don't work. What are the challenges you think people face? Is it that they're not following the process? Is it they're following it, but there's a secret sauce that they're missing out on? Is it the process, or is it the scaffolding around the process? What's your observations?
My observations, and Andy, please fill in. When I look at organizations, you can have fantastic processes. It's all about the mind. Okay, what's the mindset in the organization? So if I have I give you an example. I was in China, Dalian, and at a certain moment, the CEO came to me with someone else to translate what he was saying, and the result was, okay, I was in his eyes doing a fantastic job, but there was one thing I must remember, and that was he was pointing at himself and he was saying, "There's only one who makes the decisions." So this is culture. So when I look at all those failed projects, I think it's not the method itself which you can blame. No, it's probably the culture around it. If I have a project board and is saying, okay, talking about tolerances in PRINCE2, okay, no, when you exceed a timeline, when you exceed a budget, I need to know. I will make the decisions. Instead of giving some room to the project manager, to the teams there, okay, make your own decisions. You will get room to maneuver. And if you don't have this room to maneuver, then immediately you will have delays. So there it starts. It's about the mindset. And then we now talk, when we talk about agile, it's the agile mindset, etc. Forget about agile. It's the mindset, okay, how do we want to run a project? How do we trust the people who are doing that? And I think that's key. And that's, for me, one of the biggest reasons that I see so many failures. There it starts, at senior management level.
How about you, Andy? What's your observations?
Yeah, I would reckon that's a similar theme. So it is the application of the method rather than the method itself that makes the difference. And we just need to look at what we've included in the people chapter and how those people factors are reflected through the rest of the method. So one of the things that I come across often is not recognizing the nature of a temporary team that is established, that cuts across organizational boundaries, possibly with multiple organizations, and there's an assumption that you can crash these people together and they'll be effective on day one. So the sort of the pre-project and the early project activity are really critical to get those dynamics and those relationships right. And really interestingly, it didn't happen this time, but in 2009, when we went out to practitioners and said, tell us the things you'd like to see changed, one of the changes that was relatively high on the list was, can we remove the starting up a project process and just have initiating? So can we go straight into delivery? And that's sort of human nature, isn't it? That we're deliverers. We want to crack on and do things. But all the academic literature was telling us, no, you go in slow, you come out fast. So spend more time up front, you'll get quicker execution. So we knock that request back. And for me, it's those things. It's the rushing in. And that's a people issue. That's a performance issue, not a method or process issue. And right on cue, my doorbell's gone. So excuse me, Scott, just for 30 seconds, I'll be right back.
No worries. So I guess Henny, in many ways, it's maybe an expectations thing as well. So there's an expectation about what is meant to happen, such as, I expect you to come to me for every decision, or I expect this team to work immediately. And yeah, like you said, that's culture of the organization, culture of the country. It could be anything, right?
Yeah, when I give training classes to senior managers who are part of project boards, I sometimes ask them, and so when was the last time you had a cup of coffee with your project manager? So this is again about people management. Are you aware what kept your project manager awake during the night? And they are looking at me. So yeah, we get progress reports, etc. No, I say, this is how you have to interact. So you are there to smoothen the path to make this project manager successful. And if the project manager is successful, you are successful with achieving your strategic objectives. And that means, again, interaction. So that means people management. Okay, so that's why it's key. So I had senior managers saying, okay, we are running a large transformation. Henny, how much time do you think I need to spend on this? And I think you're reorganizing the organizations. This is such a huge change. You have to be there on top of that. Even if you are part of a project board. No, you have to be on top of that. They have to feel you. They have to see, okay, you are really looking for the results. Okay, so you create an environment where they can excel, and that's what you need to do. And of course, you must not sit on the chair of a project manager. No, of course not. But there is so much more to do, and they have to understand that.
Yeah, and so just as you say, you could have whatever method you wanted underneath that, but if you haven't got those people talking to each other, then it's
It doesn't work. Yeah,
success is
Yeah.
elusive.
Yeah, I came across a brilliant example. It was quite a complex project. It was critical to the organisation, and the project executive was a director on the main management executive team, and I was just facilitating the some of the early project sort of scoping discussions. And I overheard a conversation between the project executive and the project manager, and she said to him that she's a bit of a workaholic. She's in the office 7:30 most days, and so she said she was trying to find out are you a morning person or are you an evening person? And he said I'm a morning person too. So she said great. In that case, the first half hour of every Tuesday and every Thursday are yours. Said if you don't want to use it, I'm assuming everything's fine. But if you do want to use it, they're dedicated times to you. And I checked in with them sometime later, and they then changed that to just once a week because that's all they needed. But I thought that's such a brilliant example of, first of all, connecting on the, are you a morning person, evening person? What's your sort of biorhythm of your of your project life, project day? But secondly, ring fencing some time so the project manager could just check in or ask a question or just vent. It didn't really matter what it was, but that was always there between the project manager and the project executive. And it's those people relationships that I think are critical to success.
Absolutely.
Now, we could codify that and it wouldn't work for someone else. And so that's why, the way we describe those things are, for you to come up with what works for you and your team.
We're wrapping up now, but I just thought I'd ask you if there's anything that came up in the development or the reiteration of the processes that you didn't expect, or something that was significant that you found that maybe there was a little bit of, again, a group of people going, get rid of managing product delivery, and there was some sort of plebiscite as to whether that would happen or not. Was anything like that occurred?
Now, maybe in the preparation, Andy has examples, but for me, it was more how can I say it? That the framework, the method PRINCE2, okay, that's how it was created, and I think it was the 2005 version where we still had 8 processes, where the planning was also part, and it was not a real process. I think it was planning. It needs to be integrated. So from that moment, we had the 7 processes, and those 7 processes are still there. And I fully agree with what Andy was saying. Don't skip starting up a project. So that's just a very short period. And now looking at new techniques, using the MVP, make it part of your business case. So you can do that during starting up a process to say, okay, yes, it really makes sense to continue with the project. Because I think that's key in this moment, in this world. We can run projects for many years, but the sooner we know this will not bring the results, the better. And I think this starting up a project process is already a fantastic place to do this, to have those experiments to see, okay, yes, we are moving in the right way. So now we can say, yes, okay, what does that really mean? Okay, let's build the foundations. Looking at initiating a project. So for me, it's just the confirmation. Yeah, the framework is working. So that's what I see. Okay, and don't change those things. So for me, it was more confirmation. We are moving, or we are still doing it in the right way.
Cool. How about you, Andy? Was there any sort of?
Yeah, exactly the same. So, I think this update has just reconfirmed that the process model works. It is a good, robust process model. okay, we removed some of that repetition, but that's just how we explain the process model rather than the process model itself. And then the other changes were mostly reflecting changes in the practices. So, for example, where we've got the new management approaches, we now need to have a corresponding step action in the, in one of the processes. So, yeah, the process model just works. I don't think there was a revelation that something wasn't right and we had to fix it. It was just reflecting the changes elsewhere and removing that repetition, really.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Very good. Okay. Well, look, for all those who have registered, a link to this recording of the event will be sent along with a request to provide some feedback. Feel free to share that link with others. Thank you, Henny, for joining us from the Netherlands. I appreciate you joining us on your busy mornings.
No problem.
And thanks, Andy, for
You're welcome.
taking some time out. I appreciate that as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you all at a future event. Ka kite whanau, New Zealand. Thanks very much.
Thank you.